Hi, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to tonight's 10th episode of So What, Now What TV. I'm really excited about tonight. It's going to be some pretty heavy stuff and stuff that we're going to talk about. But the good news is that my guest, who I love and adore and is one of my very best friends, is probably one of the most funny people I know and sarcastic and makes really hard situations and hard topics, easy to deal with. And she's one of the most transparent people I've ever met in my life. And I love that about her. And I think that this is a really important topic. And we're going to talk about domestic violence and child abuse and how to deal with that and how to, save yourself and save your kids and all the different things that you can kind of do to advocate for yourself. And that's what Kelley does. She is an advocate and a coach for people who are going through domestic violence and child abuse. And we're just gonna talk real talk. We're gonna talk like Kelley and I talk on the phone. So if we drop an F-bomb, we're sorry, not sorry. Kelley, say hello. Kelley Peyser, everyone.
If we drop an F-bomb.
Okay. When we drop an F-bomb. So okay. Your daughter's trying to friend request me right now. Does that mean she's trying to watch us?
I believe so. Isabella?
Yep. I got her. Yep, Isabella. All right. So the reason I wanted to bring you on, other than the fact that I love you, is that I think that this is a topic, especially, right now, everybody's stuck at home.
Yes.
And there is no escape. You can't go to work to get away from your abuser, and you can't go to school to get away from your abuser. And I think that maybe not the people that are watching this right now or the people that are in that situation. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I'm pretty sure that most every single one of us knows someone or knows someone who knows somebody who's in a scary situation right now. And we just want to see if we can give them some practical tools to take care of themselves and things that they can do. I just want to back up a little. Kelley's story is pretty intense and insane. And she could have we tried to write a letter to get Oprah to bring her on TV.
No, we did write a letter to Oprah.
Kelley, tell us in the best way that you can, not the short version, but the version that kind of gives the bottom line for everybody.
You want an abridged version?
Yeah.
The cliff notes?
You know what? I wish I had your book sitting right here because bring your book.
Oh, my book. I have to have my book.
Yeah.
Let me text somebody that has to bring it in.
All my people.
Oh my God. Okay.
You know what I did today? I called this my So What Now What Nation, like I'm the Bachelor.
Whatever. I think it's fantastic.
This is So What Now What Nation.
Okay, can I scream?
What's that?
Can I yell?
Yeah, you want.
Who do I call for?
I don't know. Where's Isabella? Just text her.
Hey,
you
Bella!
Guys, if you want,
bring in my books.
Oh my God! If you want to comment, if you want to ask questions, go to my So What Now. Go to my So What Now What page because that's where you can post your questions. I can't necessarily see it on my page, but go to my So What Now What page. I'll type that up. Oh, Tony Rodriguez. My friend Tony Rodriguez is like the guy who inspired me to do these shows. So I'm super, super excited. Thanks for being here, Tony. You're the best. He does a show called Get Up and Grow. Check it out. All right. So there they are. All right. So talk to us about why do you have a story to tell? Like, why should we listen to you is what I think is a great way to answer that question.
Why should you listen to me? Because I have been through hell and I made it look like home for many, many, many years. And to a certain degree, I still am. I mean, when you have children, especially who've been abused or exposed to abuse, it doesn't stop just because the abuser's gone. It kind of carries on throughout their life and throughout different stages of their life. And it morphs. It doesn't always stay the same. But every single day, I have to tell you, there is not, in some way, we're struggling with some degree of trauma from either the two children who were directly abused, or from the two children who never even knew that person, but just, grew up around, the behaviors of the older two as a result of their abuse.
Right.
And I was in court for 9 years. So I escaped. I was in court for 9 years.
So her ex-husband sexually abused her oldest, neglected her youngest, tried to kicked Kelley in the belly when she was pregnant. I mean,
oh no, I actually lost 2 babies.
But didn't he throw you down the stairs?
Well, he threw me down twice, not that down the stairs. He threw me down twice, and I lost 2 pregnancies right at the end of the first trimester, both times.
Yeah. So when I tell you she's been through hell and her children have been through hell, it's the truth. So, and is on the other side of it in a way.
And that's the caveat, in a way. So yeah, I mean, I escaped. Like most women or men who are in abusive situations, it doesn't usually happen the first time. I mean, average, they say, is 7. It took me, I don't know, it took me 4 or 5, but 3 in which the courts were involved. And once I had children, the courts would pull me back and they would keep me basically imprisoned in the state in which he lived. So I was fighting for, 9 years once I finally escaped to get them away from him, because the abuse continued. I was abused, and then we had a stay away order. So he wasn't allowed near any of us for about 18 months.
He had money too. So he had a rich father who was able to really.
Yeah, he didn't work. So at 3 and 5, he sued me for sole custody again. I had left when they were 1 and 3. So then from 3 and 5, and then finally in 2009, I finally got them away. But he kept trying to sue me for sole custody. Yeah.
Read what Tony just said.
Can you see that? Sorry, Male did that to you. I say male because he was certainly not a man.
That gave me the chills.
Huh?
That gave me the chills.
Yeah. Well, it's awful. So it was all of these years, and I had to learn every gray area and loophole in the system in order to free my kids. He horrifically sexually abused me. But that, I don't even think about that. Like, my abuse, I don't touch on it. I don't remember it. I don't think about it. The kids, I didn't think, because he was such a malignant narcissist, he would ever do that to my kids. I knew he acted out inappropriately sexually, but it never was about children. And so when I learned many, many, many years later that he was doing that, what do you do? I finally got them free. But that didn't stop. It didn't stop when, the behaviors, my kids actually hated me. So
that is the craziest part of this, is that, and we're kind of going through a similar situation, not the abuse, some sort of mental abuse with my boyfriend's kids right now, because she's alienating them from their dad. And has he done it perfect? Has he made not the best choices all the time? Sure, but we're all human. But now, the person that is it's crazy. They hate him, even though she's been part of the reason that he's not there. So it's crazy.
That, and that's the hard thing. Like, people always say bruises heal, and they do. Scars, they close up. Mental abuse, those type of wounds, they change you. They change the narrative in your head. They change your brain chemistry. They actually change the way your brain develops. So that is so very long lasting. And I think that abuse is probably more difficult to heal than any other abuses.
Right.
Yeah, they hated me. I mean, I was the spawn of Satan to them. I mean, they had a nickname for me, and I put it on Instagram. It's in my book. It's the C word and then Satan. So that's what they would call me.
SCUNT, Satan. Wow.
That's my name. That was my name in his phone. So if I called, they
Wow.
would see that name pop up, and then they would know they didn't want to talk to me. But I mean, my whole thing was they couldn't stand me. I never took it personally. I never, ever, ever was angry with them because I knew where it was coming from. I knew it was him. When they opened their mouth, it was like little hymns talking to me.
That is very familiar.
I was terrified that if I would, be like, guys, like this absolutely isn't true. And, this is really what happened, that they would have this psychic break and their minds, they were too young, they couldn't deal with it. So I would always address anytime they came at me and would call me names and tell me that I abandoned them, I kidnapped them, I abused them, I didn't feed them, all of this stuff, right? I would be like, you know what? I was just like, well, if that's the case, then, you guys are healthy, you're happy, your tummies are full, like everything's, I love you, everything's good. And I was like, in your heart, you'll always know the truth. So that was kind of my thing. Even when for a long time, I was evil. And even now at 21 and 19, when they're triggered, it's right back to I'm evil again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your oldest daughter went through a complete court case. They pressed charges against him eventually.
Oh, yeah. So in 2009, I got them free. And let me say, and this is the legal system, I was told by a judge that if I came back to court, I was going to lose my kids. He's just like, if you walk back in this courtroom and, I don't have absolute complete evidence, you are going to lose your kids. I was like, oh no, that's not going to happen. So I found another way. But finally, I had fired all my attorneys. I had spent well into the six figures on attorneys, and I represented myself because I figured, if somebody else couldn't do it, I could do it. Whether or not I win, I had no idea, but nobody else had at that point. So I decided to give it a shot. So I learned the law. I learned everything, I had to do. And I represented myself and the kids, and then was given the kids completely. The judge said to me, finally, he's like, what do you want to happen? And I'm like, well, I never want him to see him again. And he's like, okay. That was May 9th.
That same judge.
No. So in Maryland, you never have the same judge. You never know what judge you're going to get with a new motion. So it was a judge, and people had told me, they're like, you don't want to go in front of him. And I'm just like, well, I don't have a choice. Like, this is like my Hail Mary. So when he granted that, I was like, I like literally choked on my spit. And that was in 2009. So they were 8 and 10. So they're 19 and 21. They were 8 and 10.
Wow.
And it wasn't until 2016, March 10th, 2016, that he went to jail for raping Isabella.
Yeah, that was a doozy of a time for you, for everyone. But I think what I've always been so impressed by and loved you so much about is you're just always so brave. You're so brave, and you're so relentless. You're just fucking relentless when it comes to justice, and not only for yourself and your kids, but for everyone around you.
So one of my things was, and as far as being relentless with my own kids, I knew that, until they were 18, I was going to do everything in my power to make them as healthy as I possibly could. Like, get them all of the services they needed, get them all the help that they needed. As a family, individually, whatever I had to do, I was going to do my very best, because at 18, I have no control anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, like, up until that point, I could catch all the hockey pucks that were coming in the goal. But after that, I'm screwed. So that was like kind of always in my head. And so, there were things that I had to do that were, most parents would never dream of doing. Isabella was arrested 17 times because of me. And she had to go away for over a year in residential treatment because she assaulted me, because I pressed charges. But it wasn't because I was angry with her. It was because we had exhausted every other thing, and she needed help. She didn't need to be punished. She needed help. We had to figure out she was disassociating at the time.
Mhm.
I didn't know about the sexual abuse at that time until she was in treatment. And so, I mean, there's so much I had to do. And then while she was there, she hated me. So I was just telling you this before we got on, was I would call every day. I was only allowed 10 minutes. And they would just put the phone to her ear and I would tell her I loved her. And she sometimes would say something, but never I love you. Or sometimes she wouldn't, and they would hang up. And then I would do it again the next day. And I was allowed to see her once a week for about 30 minutes in a cinder block room. And that was about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think sometimes we as parents have to do things that are, I mean, I don't think as Isabella will ever understand the pain that you went through arresting her 17 times, or having her arrested 17 times. And, you know, the kind of pain that you go through for your kids when you're trying to do what's in the best interest of them. And I think that, you know, the journey obviously continues with, I mean, Emma is your youngest of those two. She's thriving, right?
Academically, she's thriving. Sports, she's thriving. She's awesome. She's tormented emotionally. She struggles a lot with that. And she can't seem to shake it. And she's definitely one that doesn't want to talk. She holds it all in and she doesn't want to talk. And I drive her crazy. We don't think alike. I'm very much rainbows and unicorns, and she's, you know, like F the world, wearing black and emo and whatever else. And I'm like, well, I love the look, but I don't necessarily like it, you know, if that's how you feel inside. But, you know, they both struggle. I mean, they really do. They struggle every day, even though it appears as though she's got everything. She's still, it's hard. I mean, she suffers tremendously.
Yeah. Well, and then Bella's still going through some stuff. And so
that's part of the hockey puck thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't, you know, my oldest actually just got out of jail, and first of all, I never knew anybody who went to jail. And then I didn't know what jail was like. I've learned things like putting things on the books. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Or what a commissary is. I didn't know these things. Like, I'm like, I thought everybody was nice and like you were fed properly.
You watched Orange is the New Black, Kelley. Come on.
No, when she went to jail, that's when I started watching it. So then I'm like, I got this. I know what jail's like. I watched Orange is the New Black. That's my only reference to jail. And so that was probably one of the toughest things because I could not do anything, but I still did. I was still working on this side while she was in there without her knowing, because she wanted nothing to do with me, trying to set things up to make sure that, you know, she could have the best outcome possible. Yeah. And so now she's 7 months pregnant and she's back home with me.
God, the story continues. I mean, it's like an ongoing crazy journey that I think this roller coaster you're ready to get off of eventually.
Yeah, I don't even like roller coasters. I don't know how I got on it.
I don't either. So let's talk about some things that people can do to take care of themselves. So, like, what are some of the things that you did not know that you know now that were game changers for you in this process?
So I think it's a little bit different. What I didn't know then, what I know now. Well,
if someone called you, let's make this easier. If someone called you and said, I think my ex is abusing my kids, or like if someone had kids at someone else's house and you believe that there was some sort of mental or physical abuse going on, what advice what can a parent do who's not in control of them all the time? What can they do to kind of fight that without spending millions and millions of dollars?
You get every system involved yourself. You talk, you speak, you use your voice. I don't care who you use it with. You just talk to anybody and everybody who will listen. And most of the time you're going to be told to shut up. Not in those words, but you'll have doors shut in your face. You're going to be told no. You're going to be, you're going to hit the wall more times than you're ever going to get through the door. But it doesn't mean you stop.
Well, and I think do you think that sometimes parents are afraid to do that because they don't want the kid, like your kids were so pissed at you. Like, how did they get unpissed at you when you finally got them back? Like, how do you
deprogram? You go through a lot. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, if you're in a cult and you've been involved with it for so long and you're suffering from Stockholm syndrome because they idolize their abuser. Absolutely. I mean, 100%. I was the evil one. So all of that had to be reprogrammed all of those years. And although, I didn't sit them down and be like, look, this is what happened. Never. Because what would that do? That would be like me trying to regurgitate exactly like the information, except opposite, into them that their father did. So how is that going to give me any credibility? I just was going to live in the vein in which I've always lived, and that's loving them unconditionally. And I did not get angry with them. I didn't overreact. I didn't, yell at them. I would absolutely set firm boundaries, but I wanted them just to see who I was the entire time. And I continue to live that way. And I always talk and I always ask. I explain why I do things, and, I ask them how they're feeling, and I tell them I love them 1,000 million times a day to nauseam, which drives them crazy. And I kiss them and I hold them and I touch them and I love them. Just because there were so many years in which when I would do that, that would trigger them, and they would start to, have a panic attack when I got near them. So, now it's like, that's all I try to do. But
right.
Back to the point of what does someone do? You don't shut up. And a lot of times you will be faced with people who, it could be turned around and, come at you all of a sudden, because that's what happens. I mean, I was accused of more crap than I ever knew about. Like what people were told about me, what, was said in court about me, which none of it was true. And to this day, I will never defend myself because there's nothing to defend. None of it was true. So I think people get especially the alienated parent, get so caught up in defending who they are as opposed to just being who they are. Mm-hmm. And allowing everybody else around you to kind of sort of see that.
When you say get everybody involved, who do you mean? Who are you talking about?
Shit, I talk to everybody. I talk to teachers, guidance counselors, CPS, social. I went to the head of social services, like the top of social services, to finally get Bella into residential treatment. The social worker ended up dropping the ball, but so then we had to go through DJS. But I went all the way up the system until somebody heard my voice, and then I'd put in a motion for, a material change if something happened. I mean, there's always ammunition, so to speak. He was always doing something that I could go back to court for, but I had to be very, very wise, like when and how I did it.
I'm surprised you never went to law school.
Yeah, I know. I played one on TV.
You do play one on TV.
Well, actually, it's funny because in college, my junior year, I was a psychology and theater major, and I would go to the law school for, lawyers who were litigating, and I would be a witness on the stand. So like I was given, the demographics of the witness or whatever, and they would question me. I was so good at it. I loved it.
Yeah. So what about someone who's got kids at home right now that are being abused by their parent or something?
So they're still, even with this, shutdown, like the YWCA is, to me, one of the best organizations in the world. I mean, when I moved back to Maryland, when I escaped my abuser and with my kids, I immediately went into therapy. Instantaneous. Literally, it was the next week I was in therapy. And then my kids, they were 3 and 1. Isabella started play therapy at 3 there, and I went 4 days a week. I had 2 group therapies and 2 individual therapies. And then Isabella They would have childcare there, and then they would also have therapy for kids. And now it's shit. This was like 18 years ago, so it's evolved to, they have a whole art therapy program, and it's an amazing organization.
So the truth of the matter is, there is help out there. You just have to be brave enough to go get it.
You have to have the courage.
Like, this is a so what, now what moment. Like, it's not. So when I talk about the so what version of this, it's so what's true? Like, what is the truth about what's happening in your life? Not right. So what, you're being abused. It never means that. It's like, so what is real and what is true for you in this moment? And now what can you do? How can you shift and pivot to do something about it? Because, as you know, the only one that can advocate for yourself is you, the best way.
And your kids.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a moment where there's never a reason why you can't advocate for yourself.
So you have to be, depending on how severe the abuse is, because we know it comes in all varying degrees, right?
I've never I can't speak to that. I mean, I've certainly gotten in loud fights, but I can, never mind. This is not about me.
So safety is paramount. You have to be safe. Your children have to be safe. So that means you have to be calculating. You can't just because you're like, I'm unsafe, I have to leave. Well, more likely than not, you're not going to get very far. You're going to go back and you're going to be even in more danger. So making a plan. I always had a safety plan. Doesn't mean it remained the same all the time, because I would try, nobody would know. And then something would thwart the plan and I'd have to retreat and figure out another way. So the safety plan is essential, and you want it to be you need to cross those T's and dot those I's, so that when you're ready to go and when you're ready to literally pack up and have the courage to do it, have it all planned out where you're going. You have a separate bank account, you've got, everything that you're able to sever ties with that person and not be pulled back.
That's crazy to even think about. I think that there's probably so many people out there that need and want that kind of plan, but just have no idea where to begin with that. And I think for so long, you've just got this immense amount of knowledge that I think is so important. And I think that if anyone out there knows anybody and needs any kind of help or advocacy, you guys need to reach out to Kelley. I mean, she is one of the smartest fucking people I know, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. So do not hesitate. Do not pass go. What is your Instagram is what? I am
Kelley, Kelley mentor.
Just direct message her.
Yes, absolutely. I am always I'm always on there talking and to people. This is one thing. When I was, so I'm old now, as we know.
Shut up.
But so I was 21 when I had Isabella. I was 23 when I had Emma. I finally escaped right after my 24th birthday. So I'm turning 43. So this was 19 years ago. I went to college. I was very, very smart. I had zero skill. I had never worked before. I suffered a horrific back injury. I was legally disabled. I literally had no skills except I loved to act. I loved to entertain people, and I loved my children. Those are my skills. So I had never worked. And when I left, I'm like, I had nothing to go to. So, it wasn't like I had all of this money and resources. I didn't. I had to find them. You know what I mean? And so I didn't know how I was going to find the next, how I was going to put food on the table the next time, or how I was going to get a job, or what I was going to even be doing. But it didn't matter. I was going to continue to put one foot in front of the other, and I was just going. And then if I hit a wall, okay, I just didn't do that again. I'd turn around and do something else. But I didn't have part of the reason why I am so intent on helping as many people as I possibly can whose children are suffering in some way is because I didn't have anyone to turn to. Like, I wound up in a battered women's shelter in Rochester, New York, with a 9-month-old and a 2.5-year-old, breastfeeding both my kids. And I was terrified, like absolutely terrified, because my ex-husband's, all of his family, they could not help me. They weren't allowed to help me. Like, it was all about him. So like, there was nobody. And I'm from here and I was in Rochester. What was I going to do? So I know what it feels like to have no one and be terrified. So I never want anybody to feel that way. I mean, they call, I mean, my house is like a revolving door.
Well, no, and to let you guys know, when when my ex-husband, when Joe and I split up, I had nowhere to go. And I moved into Kelley's house, and I lived in Kelley's daughter's bedroom where she was in treatment, and my children slept on an air mattress in Kelley's downstairs living room.
But we were a happy family. There was love. And at the end of
so much. There was so much. Yeah, there was so much love, and I'll forever be grateful for that. And I think that there's an opportunity to talk to, like, if you can get a hold of her, she can help you get out. And I think that there is definitely so much knowledge and so much value in that. And this is the deal, is I think the reason that people don't do or don't advocate for themselves or don't go for it is because they think it's harder than it is, or they don't know that the courts really don't care. They don't want to micromanage you. Like, people are afraid of court, I think. I was.
And to a certain extent you should be, because it's all based on someone's opinion. It's very loosely based in law, right? Domestic law, that is. So, it depends on who you get. You could have some judge go off half-cocked and make some whack decision, which happened to me more times. I'm going to give you an example. My ex-husband was bathing naked with my oldest daughter and encouraging her to touch his junk. And it under the pretense that it was the raindrop game. And I actually walked in on this, and that's what was one of the impetus that I hightailed it out of there. The judge had said, it's weird, but it's not weird enough. So why don't you just wear a bathing suit? Why don't you wear a bathing suit when you bathe with her? Okay, that was one time. Another time, I breastfed both my kids. They're 2 years apart, but I never stopped, and I breastfed them till they were 5 and 3. And people will go up in arms, however you feel about it is your right, but I did it, and I will do it again if I did it again.
Doing it again, no.
These cost way too much money for me to do it again. So my ex-husband actually, he tried to have me charged with child molestation and child abuse for nursing them, for extended nursing.
Didn't you try and nurse them?
Yeah. He was trying to physically nurse. Men can't nurse. You have nipples, but you can't nurse. So he actually tried to nurse them. And again, the judge, he's just like, it's very peculiar behavior, but it's not weird enough for them to do anything about. That is actually in one of the court records. And then another time, the girls were probably 7. They were 6 and 8. Emma had a double ear infection, and she was on codeine for a cough or something like that. And he ended up overdosing her. He gave her triple the amount of codeine because he did not want to relinquish the medicine, because he didn't want me having any control or any say. So he tripled the dose, knocked that little child's ass out. Like, she literally slept for like that night, all the way through the night into the late morning the next day. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So went to court. He was actually brought up, the CPS was involved with that. And the judge wanted us to keep a medication log. Well, what's that going to do? He chose to overdose her. It wasn't that he forgot. He purposefully did it so he didn't have to relinquish the medication. So that's kind of depending on who you get, that's what you're going to be dealing with. They literally put them right back in the abuser's hand. And they did that to me for years and years and years.
And you just kept coming.
And I just kept going because what am I going to do? Like, you don't give up on your kids.
What did you say when they asked you where your lawyer is? And you're like, right here.
Never asked.
They never asked?
Mm-hmm. No. I mean, people think of court like what you see on TV, right? Like, but it's never like these, you do get to trial eventually, but that's not really what it's like. It's just lawyers going back and forth, bitching at each other, trying to get, more money or more time or whatever. And that's kind of the way it always is. And then when you wind up in front of a judge over a particular incident, it's just the judge, the attorneys, and the clients. It's not this huge, elaborate, dramatic thing. I mean, the criminal trial was, but the other domestic, the divorce and child custody stuff it's not dramatic. But you're faced against a lot of people who are tired of hearing moms and dads and men and women complain about the other person. They're done with it. So I think they just kind of some of them tune it out. But my biggest thing is that I always had to take a step back. I was a voyeur basically in my kid's life. I was like this silent but deadly bystander. So I just watched. I didn't, like I said before, I didn't take anything personally. And I was very, very, very good at having to remain objective because it wasn't about me. It was about them. And I needed to be completely accurate and be in the right frame of mind so that when I went into court, they didn't think I was some emotional, hysterical mother. Like, I just wanted to present facts. It was black and white. There was at no time did I tell you how I felt. Because that is the one thing that will shut them down more than anything is going in and being like, well, I feel this or I feel that. No, they don't care.
You guys, I'm telling you, there is a wealth of information and like there's so much that she knows. And we don't need to go on and on and on about like how fucked up people are, but they are.
I didn't say
God bless them. I mean, everyone's that way for a reason. I'm sure your ex-husband went through some shit that made him the way he was too. So,
think about it.
Who knows? Anyway, Kelley, what is the best way, literally the best way for them to get a hold of you or reach out to you or send someone to you?
Either Instagram or Facebook. I think, what's my name on Facebook? Is it Kelley Peyser?
Yeah.
Okay, so either Kelley Peyser on Facebook or I am Kelley Mentor on Instagram.
Kelley EY.
Yes, please don't forget the EY, Michelle.
No, I did it earlier today, and I just was like, I hate when people put two L's in my name, so I hated that I left out your E. No,
it's all good. Yeah, I mean, all they have to do is drop
me a message. EYSER, right?
EYSER.
Okay, there we go.
And then I mean, anything that I can do, even, sometimes people just want to be heard, and they just want like to be able to talk to someone who, understands or who's been there and is not going to, I don't want to tell people what to do. Like, I don't want to get up on my soapbox and be like, well, this is what you should do. This is what you should have, should not have done. If I can offer any advice from my experience, I want to do that. But other than that, I just want you to advocate for yourself. Like that is the goal, is just to advocate for yourself.
Yeah. Kelley's an amazing coach, amazing friend, amazing advocate, an amazing mother. And I'm just really glad that we got to have this chat today. It's not one of the prettiest topics, but you're pretty.
Thanks, Michelle.
and she's an amazing hairdresser.
Oh God, that's such an archaic term.
I'm sorry, hairstylist. I am older. I'm 6 years older than you, so I'm allowed to say things archaic. 7. Shit. Yes. Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. But yeah, so anyway, I believe there's nothing you can't do, my love.
You're so sweet.
Thank you for being here. And you guys, if you have any questions or need anything, you can message me if you want, message Kelley. And we're here to support you, because so what, now what? Everybody's going to hit a point in their life where they're going to need to pivot, hit a reset button, refocused, and take some massive action. And so that's really what the So What, Now What TV is about, is to give you ways to deal with your so what. Kelley tonight was the now what. So I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Stay on with me, Kel.